historians would say, why is it okay for Reagan to do it and not President Biden? But let me ask you about
why is it okay?
deal.
Well, can I say this? Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
Senator, again, military officials say
Whatever
the technology has changed. But let me ask you about how all
these
of this
military
could
officials that you're talking about
let me ask you
are
something.
full of crap.
I don't know if he was talking about you. If he was, it's a badge of courage. But this is the type of argument that is made by members of the United States Congress. We'll play a few more for you in a moment.
Well, in defense of Lindsey Graham, let me say this. We Americans have a very misguided view of conducting war and especially of ending war. We have treated whatever wars that we've participated in as all or nothing propositions. Now, thankfully, during the First World War, we were a participant, but we were not really in charge of how that war was conducted. So that ended differently from the way in which I think we Americans would like to have ended it. Every American thinks in terms of what happened during the Civil War. Now, they don't look carefully at the details. They look at Grant's famous unconditional surrender demand, and then they fail to realize that when surrender was ultimately offered by Grant, it was eminently reasonable, which is one of the reasons that Robert E. Lee not only took it, but then worked for the rest of his life to uphold it. But we don't see it that way. And we take World War II as another example. Well, we annihilated Japan. We annihilated at least Germany from the air. The Soviets took care of the rest of the problem on the ground. That's not the way to end a war. You want to end a war in a way that produces a settlement that has a chance of surviving, and surviving in the sense that everyone can live with it, including the losers. No, we haven't taken that position ever in the 20th century. We've always taken a position when everyone is dead and no one resists and everything's destroyed, we win. Well, you're hearing that in the voice of Lindsey Graham. And of course, that's music to the ears of someone like Netanyahu, because that's exactly what he wants to do in Gaza. But Netanyahu, much like Graham, is forgetting that what he can get away with today in Gaza will not be forgotten tomorrow in the rest of the world, particularly inside the Islamic world. So betting that everyone will sit around like a toad on the road and do nothing is not a very stable bet, in my judgment, for Mr. Netanyahu, just as I don't think it was a good idea for us to have used those nuclear weapons against the Japanese. I think we could have ended the war much earlier than we did had we been willing to talk to the Japanese. But again, if you treat every opponent as someone who is morally reprehensible and unworthy of your approach, then you end up with these wars of annihilation. I just hope nobody turns around and wages one against us.